So welcome to the final session of Penn State MacAdmins 2019. My name's Dave Weale. I'm an IT consultant based in Edinburgh. And I'll give you a little bit of an intro to my session, which is Zero Touch Deployment on a Budget. But there is a star on the title because everybody's opinion of budget is slightly different. So I'm a consultant. I live in a very old part of the world, in Edinburgh, in Scotland. We have a castle in the centre of town. It's not always covered in snow. And if you want to find me, I'm Dave Weale on MacAdmin Slack, or you'll find me occasionally posting on Twitter if I'm travelling. I hope some of you managed to sample some of the goods from Scotland. I had a bottle of malt last night. There's some Scottish chocolate, if anybody would like some. I don't want to take it home, so please eat it. I had hoped, really, that I would be able to bring you a Scottish delicacy to... but I started doing a bit of reading before I came, and US Customs and Border Patrol just said, no, there is a danger of BSE with this food product. Please do not bring it into our country. So I'm very sorry. So you'll have to come to us and eat haggis. McSween's are an Edinburgh company, and they also do a vegetarian haggis, which is absolutely delicious.
Does this mean you're hosting MacAdmins Edinburgh?
I can host MacAdmins Edinburgh if you would like.
That would be awesome.
So part of why I'm here is I had a milestone birthday. And one of the things that I was being ribbed about in the UK was the fact that I'd not stood up and spoken at an event like this, or London Apple Admins, or any event in the UK. So Ben Toms, you're responsible for me standing here, really, after a conversation at Macaduck in March. I've been around the Mac a long time. I've dabbled in teaching. I accidentally slipped into IT because parents were owners of design companies, and they were asking me to do bits on the side. I went and became a teacher, went back to the school. More and more people were getting to know about me, and they ended up having too many clients to do a teaching job and consulting. So I went full-time freelance. I decided it would be a great idea to be an Apple reseller for about 10 years, and then I gave in and let Apple do that because they're better at it than everybody else. And then since 2011, I've been a consultant working for sort of small and medium businesses. And the idea when I left teaching was I was going to be my own boss, but that's not really the case because every client I have is my boss. So it's a bit like my wedding speech, this talk. I'm going to reference a lot of people. There's a lot of people in the community that produce a fantastic array of tools, and I've used a lot of these tools in this. So if you want to gamify this talk, you can see how many times I say thank you during the period, and there is chocolate as a reward for the person that gets the closest at the end. I've not counted. I might ad lib, so there might be more go in. And it wouldn't be a British Mac talk if I didn't mention faffing. And I've been told it's supposedly very funny to say faffing in a US audience, but the definition of faffing is British informal to dither, fuss, or engage in ineffectual activity. So enough faffing, and there's no need to take any notes. I'll make the slides available. I've got a couple of tweaks to do, but then I'll post links by the end of the day. So some of my clients are still in the past. I've got one particular client, very good client, work really well with them. They run Xan, and that's made up of 4 Mac Minis, Promise RAID, Open Directory Server, which is a requirement of Xan, and it's all running on 10.12. And the reason it's running on 10.12 is because the SAN is reshared using macOS Server for the non-fiber clients. So with them, we wipe a Mac, and we install the OS using Internet Recovery or one of Graham and or Ben's tools, so thanks to them. Admin user is set up manually. MUNKI is installed, so shout out to Greg Neagle, thank you to him. The system's bootstrapped, MUNKI installs all the apps. We then bind to OD manually, create a mobile user, and then the user can carry on and work until DNS breaks. And then when DNS is broken, we have to unbind and rebind, and then they can work. So their network is just stuck in time because we've decided to keep it flat so we can reshare using macOS Server. But they have just made a very large investment. They're replacing Xan with Quantum XLS, so that means there's no more Open Directory. They've already migrated their mail to the cloud, so they're using Google. They have Office 365 as well. And what I find with a lot of clients is sometimes they'll start with Google, then they'll maybe move to Office 365. So we might need some flexibility in what we do. There are some references there to Xan if any of you are still running those systems. But the beauty of Quantum XLS is it runs StoreNext. So it's a very easy migration path, and it means that we don't have to change their workflow. So they span 3 versions, mainly 10.12, 10.13 because they bought one iMac Pro, and then they had one server blow up, so their local MUNKI repo is on Mac Mini. So since 20th of September 2016, which is kind of about when we originally deployed, we've got user-approved kernel extension loading. Then 10.13 came along, user-approved MDM enrollment. We listen to Apple. We follow Apple's advice. So even though we're not using it with a particular client at the moment, they are, all their devices are enrolled in the device enrollment program, and they have been upgraded as recommended to Apple Business Manager. T2 then arrived in December 2017, giving us some additional challenges. 10.14, privacy preferences, policy control. Autumn 2018, more T2. Then in Worldwide Developers Conference, somebody in a presentation resurrected imaging in certain situations. And then this week, because something always happens at a conference, MacBook Pro entry models got T2 and a touch bar, and the 12-inch MacBook was deleted. So the only remaining product without a T2 is now iMac, and that also comes with a delightful spinning disk in its standard configurations. One of the first things we do if anybody's looking at an iMac is we persuade them to put an SSD in it. So we've got an opportunity here that we're putting a new back-end infrastructure into this customer. So it's an opportunity for us to look at our tooling, what we're doing, and how we're working. It unlocks the OS dependency that we had with the old SAN, and we need to fix some other stuff, because once they've got this shiny new SAN that is kind of upwards of $200,000, they're going to want to put nice shiny Mac Pros on all the designers' desks. So we'll get this done in August, and then hopefully we'll see some new product shipping in the autumn, and then we can deliver those. I mentioned before, we do have clients that jump from Office 365 to Google, or Google to Office 365. So when we're thinking about this tooling, we need potentially some flexibility in what we're doing. So there's a new workflow. I was at a demo from Okta, and in their particular workflow, their source of truth was their HR system. So they started at the level where they were hiring, person's employed, then they get added to a directory system, which could be anything that fits the business. We then configure any software as a service, procure the hardware in the usual approved manner, assign it in Apple Business Manager, it arrives, and then, because everybody's seen the marketing, they want to power the device on, they want magic to happen, and they want to be able to log in and work. But a lot of the time, it comes down to money. And we've got commercial options, we've got open source options, or a hybrid. What are we going to need to make this system work? We need some form of directory. We need potentially single sign-on. We've got to have an MDM component. We need something to help us at the login window. And then we've got to be able to deploy and update software. So directory, I'm going to go through this quite quickly because Johan's already done 2 sessions on it this week. And it's fairly well documented everywhere. So if you didn't go to his sessions, once the videos are posted on YouTube, have a look. There was one on Wednesday on identity management, and then the one I missed this morning was going full cloud with Azure AD or Google Cloud. So Azure AD comes in 4 editions: free, basic, premium P1, and premium P2. And some of the other sessions have covered reasons why you might pick a chargeable option, but I'm not going to go into huge detail. But if you're also deploying Windows, then it might make sense to go for premium P1 because that allows you to use MDM on the Windows platform as well. Google, G Suite built in, or there's the Google Cloud Identity, which gives you enterprise level features, $4 then rising to $6 after a year. I'll let you read that rather than reading it to you. So it's a much more enterprise platform, but for most of our clients, being in the sub 100 space, then they're more likely just to use G Suite. But another one popped up in marketing recently. We saw them appear at shows. And I thought it looks quite interesting. How many people caught Scott's session yesterday afternoon on Zero Touch? What do you think? It's something Scott did a couple of workshops in London at Macaduk. He did one that was focused around a JAMP workflow and one that was focused around a Workspace ONE workflow. So JUMPCLOUD is a cloud-based directory, single sign-on engine, and it's got a local agent that can manage users on the device. So it's quite an interesting product in our particular space because if we don't want to get involved in multiple management of Azure AD, then JUMPCLOUD can help us because we've got a multi-tenant portal, so we can have all of our clients in one place, and we can manage all of the users centrally. Even if we've got clients using different mobile device management tools, we can have a consistent single point of truth for our organization to manage our clients. So directory ranges in cost, and this is kind of always referring to cost. I don't know what Azure AD P1 is in dollars because my pricing is in GB pounds. Google's G Suite is free, Cloud Identity we've mentioned, and then JUMPCLOUD, $3 for one protocol or $9 per user per month if you want to be able to do system management. But I was talking to Greg Keller, and this is a direct quote. So if JUMPCLOUD is of interest to you, go and talk to them because it might be an interesting conversation. And the first 10 users are free. So if you are a small shop, if you're a 20-user shop, you're $4.50 per user per month for the fully functional product. So single sign-on. One Login, Okta, and Ping are the top 3 in the Gartner charts. But our target market's typically less than 100 users. So going to have a directory and then a separate single sign-on might be too complex. JUMPCLOUD's MSP friendly, so from a due diligence point of view, I felt it was important that I went and looked at that in detail to see whether it was a fit for our business and a fit for our clients. The current tooling in use at my client is MUNKI, so thanks again, Greg. And looking at the date, I actually went back to the original first commit, and 14th of January 2009. I think I started using MUNKI in late 2010. Then auto package, so Per, Greg, Tim, and everyone that's contributed recipes to that. It's a fantastic project, and it must have saved by now millions of hours of our time by being able to automate those tools. So it's a really important project, and if you get the opportunity, please contribute your recipes to the auto package repo, because everybody will be grateful for your effort too. So we're going to need mobile device management. Now, we're a small 2-person shop. We don't have the time or the skills for open source MDM, so we're going to use a commercial product of some flavor. But we only need it to do fairly basic things because we're not a multi-tiered organization with thousands and thousands of people to look after across the globe. So we need to install App Store apps, profiles, do something with File Vault, potentially install MUNKI, and maybe install an RMM like Watchman. So starting from the least expensive to more expensive, Mosel Business came around fairly recently. I think Mosel Business launched late last year. I certainly signed up in round about January, around about January time. And at $1 per user per month, it is by far and away the cheapest of all of the MDMs. And interestingly, when you talk to them about where they're pitching their product, they're pitching it fair and square against Jamf Pro in terms of feature set. So we've got Jamf Now Standard, SimpleMDM, Workspace ONE, Jamf Now Plus, Jamf Pro, but we need a Jumpstart as well. And then one of the newer products that does things slightly differently, Fleetsmith at $825. But Fleetsmith, you get a lot more because you get curated software within that price. So what are we trying to achieve? I promise this isn't a Rickroll. So if you would like to grab the QR code, I did try and get permission to play this video, but my contacts in Apple said we wouldn't be able to get it in time, but maybe no. So that's the original Jeff Goldblum iMac, 3 steps. There is no step 3. And people have reimagined that campaign and are using it around some of their deployment products now. One of those products is Jamf Connect, which is the tool that takes over the login window and enables you to authenticate securely. And Joel Rennick was kind enough to send me a video of how it works. So you connect to the network. It's sped up, obviously, as we can see by the wheel. Logs in really quickly. Sign into Azure AD. Put your credentials in. Click Next. Enter the password. Click Next. Re-enter your password. and then finally you're in to your Mac. And for this particular workflow to work, the user needs to know their credentials and password ahead of receiving the Mac. So they have to go to some other portal, or they have to have that as part of their onboarding process. The link up there is actually to a slightly newer video from JUMP's site that's got a bit of a voiceover around the product and explains a bit more. So since I pitched this talk at the end of March, there have been some announcements. Mozilla announced that they were going to do some authentication at the login window, and for 34 cents per user per month, you can have something that looks a bit like Jamf Connect. And it was the point, well, is that the problem solved? Do I just need to put a slide up by Mozilla and that's the end of the talk? But no, I felt there was value still in looking at what's in the market and giving it a proper evaluation so we can give value back to our clients and actually be that informed partner and that trusted partner and advisor to them, so we get them the best fit for their business. Worldwide Developers Conference, again, stuff changed. If you've not seen these, or you've not been able to attend some of the Apple sessions that have covered these this week, there are 3 in particular, and certainly what's new in managing Apple devices will give you a good flavor of what's coming. So Appleseed for IT is the other thing. It's been referenced a number of times over the week, and it was kind of a bit secret and then not secret. But now that it's been announced and all the Worldwide Developers Conference videos are public, you can go and sign up for Appleseed for IT with a managed Apple ID, and then go and hunt for the What's New for Enterprise and Education PDF. So Catalina's coming. So if I repeat this talk in the future, it will probably be completely different. My workflow is likely to change drastically, over the next few months. And I'm just cribbing from Robert. There was a particular section of his slides that caught my eye, which was the zero-touch improvements in Catalina. So look to see those implemented in some of these products once the MDN vendors ship, once we've got Golden Master. And what I wanted to do was, I didn't want to go, this is the answer. I just want to take you through the process that I've been through evaluating these tools, and I want to share the mistakes that I've made along the way too. So as you've probably gathered from what I've said, I think JUMPCLOUD might be a good fit, so I want to investigate it. It's not something that there's a lot of documentation about from third parties. It's quite a lot from JUMPCLOUD, but I thought it would be valuable for somebody independent of JUMPCLOUD to have a look at this stuff and see whether it's a good fit. In terms of MDM, I thought, well, let's go SIMPLEMDM because of the way they approach the community. They're on MacAdmin Slack. They're very responsive. They listen, and the product does what it says. Mozilla, because of its price point and its positioning in the market. And then I thought, well, at the other end of the scale, let's have a look at Fleetsmith. I decided I wasn't going to investigate the Jamf products and Workspace ONE because they're talked about everywhere, really. And I thought it would be valuable to have a look at some of the other tooling that's out there. So we set up a business manager. We went and spent a load of money and bought 3 MacBook Airs, so we could have 1 enrolled in each MDM. We set up and hosted, set up a web server for MUNKI and other assets. We set up a directory. We set up all 3 MDMs. We were fortunate enough to be able to get a demo Apple School Manager account, so we can do multiple things and actually work with both business and education. We knew we were going to have to get some packages somehow. We'd sign these packages, and we're going to have to build out our test environment. So we had to invest some money. So we spent about £5,000 in getting our tooling set up so that we could actually investigate these products on behalf of our customer base. Once we've got set up, we're going to upload the packages. We do a simple workflow, fix what we didn't get right first time, increase the complexity of that workflow, have a look and see how the users can get created, test that, do some even more complex stuff because there were more things coming onto the market, and then the goal was to share what I'd learned with you all here. So the first thing to do when you're setting up Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager is check the customer's Dun & Bradstreet details are correct. This catches us out time and time again that you go, you get the DUNS number, and the address of the business and the address in Dun & Bradstreet just doesn't match. And it's a really frustrating process. And of the whole timeline in setting up either a business manager or school manager, that's actually the longest to get fixed because there's a lot of back and forth with them. So our procedure in the kind of working with Apple stores is we work with either the business team in store, or some customers have a custom online store, and they can buy their hardware. So they buy their hardware, they can buy stock hardware up to about 7 o'clock at night. It's delivered the next day. And in part of that process, the serial numbers will appear once they have shipped. So if they ship at 7 o'clock, by sort of 8, 9 o'clock, we're seeing serial numbers pop up. So I did a test. I ordered something at 12:30 on the Thursday. It arrived on the Friday at 12:45, and it had appeared at about 8:30, or it says 7:30 there. So it appeared about 7:30. If a customer wants configure to order stuff, it's a bit more difficult because it's built in the factory. And typically, we find that it's about a 3-week lead time to get that to happen. I was coming here, and I decided I needed another device. But I didn't want a stock unit. I wanted more RAM, and I wanted a bigger disk. And Apple Retail in the UK, they carry some of the enhanced specs. Now, I don't know whether this is available here. I don't know whether it's been here for a long time, but it's very new in the UK. So in exceptional circumstances, it's possible to set up prepay on or your terms account, so any device purchased in store on the shop floor is linked to your business account. Excuse me. So I purchased this device on Sunday at 5 p.m. Before I flew out here on Monday morning. And at 3:30 in the morning, the serial number had appeared. And for emergency situations, it's really useful for us because it means that we can now get access to higher spec kit, or we can replace kit very quickly as and when we need. But it's done on a case-by-case basis. So you need to talk to your business team. They'll talk to the systems engineer. And if you meet their criteria, then they may grant you the exception to be able to pick up stuff in retail store. So the next bit we needed was a web server. Loads of resources for this. I've got a web server using AWS and CloudFront because it seemed to be the way everybody was doing it. So Mr. Bridge sat in the front row. Thank you for your contribution to the documentation of this. Rick Heil, who's also here and presented this week, has got some MUNKI in the cloud stuff that he did 2 years ago here. So lots and lots of useful information and fairly straightforward and fairly quick to set up. The other one is Clayton Burleson, who I met here 5 years ago, I think. And he was at Mac DevOps last year and did quite a good presentation. And he's got a follow-up on his website with some more detail. So we next set up our test directory. And we synced our JUMPCLOUD organization with Google and created an LDAP server. Set up 3 MDMs, each with 1 device attached. So I decided to start with SimpleMDM because it was a product I was using for some customers. I knew kind of roughly how it worked. I knew that we could use MUNKI to install third-party apps if we wanted to. And what I wanted to do was to get JUMPCLOUD to install 2 users and then also use something like DEP Notify to give some feedback. So thanks again to Joel for open sourcing your great tool. So it's recommended that we only install 1 package with the MDM install application or install enterprise application command. So if we want to install MUNKI and we want to install some other things as part of that enrollment, we've got a problem because we get a race condition and they might not install correctly. SimpleMDM were great. They gave a lot of feedback. And they said, go and check out this tool called Enterprise Applications with an S. So we need to get some packages. We've already got auto-package and MUNKI in place, so that's fine. But we need to sign these apps. So we've got to go and get a developer ID. And then we'll use the product sign command to be able to sign that ID. Lots of advice about testing MDM is start using a VM. So Ross has got a really good article in terms of setting it up, and you end up with 1 line of code that allows you to spin up a VM very, very quickly. So the first thing we've got to do to create a VM is use Greg Neagle's tool to get the Mojave installer, or download it from Mac App Store if you prefer. We then use Auto Damage from Per Olofsson, so thank you to him for that one. This, a quick tip, we do a lot of testing with Adobe, so it's useful to amend the size of the disk from 40 gig to 80 gig in the settings, and spot the obvious mistake. That should be a screenshot, not a windmill. So once we've got our auto damage, never booted DMG, we then feed that into Joe Chilcott's vFuse. So a single line of code gets us up and running. But rookie mistake, you've got to remember that VMware Fusion has to be running for this tool to work, because you'll get the error that I got there. So runs through, a few steps, gets created, takes about 6 or 7 minutes on a modern computer. If you've got an already created VM, you can go and configure it and add the serial number and the hardware model. I made a mistake when I was configuring my MDM, and I assigned 2 devices to SimpleMDM, and I was ending up getting some conflicts. So I had to resolve that. So we ended up with 1 device per unit. And then we end up having a command that we can create 1 line per VM, and the -- snapshot at the end is a really useful addition. But remember to put 2 dashes, because if you just put a single dash, you end up with the serial number flag, and your serial number is then called napshot, which is not really very useful. So we want to install some stuff. Guidance has said we install 1 package via install applications. So we could build a meta package or package a script, but it feels a bit too much like going backwards and being a bit like a golden master to me. So we want a more structured, flexible way to do it. So listening to what we're being told, reading the blogs, we went to have a look at Install Applications by Eric Gomez. There's quite a lot of detail online. There are some good tutorials, there are some good videos, there are some good blogs, and there are a number of MDMs that support custom DEP. So one of the reasons that we picked Simple and Mosel was they supported custom DEP because we knew we wanted to include MUNKI in our workflow. So fairly straightforward setup. So launch daemon loaded to install the first set. Then we get into user land, launch agent takes over. Excuse me a second. And then at the end of the process, install applications, gracefully exits. Lots of documentation. So thanks to Eric for the tool. Then there's a reference there from Alan Sue in setting up install applications. Who else is there? The rest of the OWL is Jacob, and then another thing again from Tom, who's got a run through in a video. So you download the repo, include your developer ID in some of the code, build the install applications with MUNKI package, upload that to SIMPLEMDM, and it needs to be in the initial device group. So it's very important that you check the little box so it gets installed when it's supposed to be installed and not just skipped entirely. So the first install didn't install because we hadn't checked the box. So we ran it again, and it all seemed fine, and we went and we checked that it was installed so we could move on to the next stage. MDM authentication is available, and so we bound our MDM to JUMPCLOUD. So at partway through the setup assistant, you'll get a requirement to authenticate. And then there are a number of things we want to do. So we need to see how we can actually get some logging back in that window and in that process so we can understand. And eventually through a couple of iterations, that was working. So in SIMPLEMDM, we can create no user and a hidden admin, a standard user and a hidden admin, or an admin user and a hidden admin. So depending on your workflow, you've got the ability to create those users during the startup process. So jumping back again to Scott Reed from JUMPCLOUD. He did a couple of workshops in London. Unfortunately, those aren't recorded, so that's not available as a resource. The tools are available in JUMPCLOUD's GitHub, so go and have a look and search those out if you're interested. Greg Keller's session was recorded, so that's a resource that's there for you all to go and grab. So from JUMPCLOUD's point of view, zero-touch deployment for the Mac starts when IT registers the system serial number into an MDM solution. It then works in corporation, and their idea is that they're minimizing security issues because there's a lower risk of hijacking of that profile. More resources for you. Workspace ONE and Jamf Pro were covered. So we need to install this agent. We can install it with a script, or we can install it with install applications, then create a user with JUMPCLOUD. So fairly straightforward. We know install applications is going to give us the best control, and we want to put some packages up in the cloud, and then we can add JUMPCLOUD and then bootstrap install our applications using MUNKI. So we're going to grab our packages, we use auto package for that, we grab the MUNKI tools, We then want to sign those packages with product sign. We then have a set of signed packages. We then copy those into a particular directory structure, and we can then upload those to our web server. And then we're going to use one of Eric's tools, generate JSON PY, to generate a JSON file that sits at the root of your web server. And if you're iterating this, it's quite useful to have a wrapper. So I spent quite a lot of time working out how to create this JSON file effectively. I got a bit stuck. So where do you go when you get stuck? MacAdmin Slack, Install Applications channel, and Mike Solon was kind enough to help me out and give me a few pointers. So thank you to him for his fixes. And then a reference that I've used earlier, Jacob, the rest of the OWL. He's got 2 articles on how to set this up. So you've got Eric Gomez's 9-part blog, and you've got Jacob's blog as well as the GitHub to show you how to set this stuff up. I'll put a link up after the talk. So it'll probably not be up till tomorrow morning when I land back in the UK, unless I spend a fortune on internet access on the flight back tonight. So we go and edit this JSON file that sits at the root of our web server. Then we need to add the JUMPCLOUD user. We've got install applications working. We've tested it. We've got some applications running with MUNKI. So we've got to a point where kind of everybody else had got to in this workflow. So the next point we wanted to do was we wanted to do some automatic user creation at login. So we wanted to use zero touch. So we looked at some of Scott's earlier work, and we thought, all right, we can just use these examples. No problem, we'll just use that for inspiration, but not quite. We want zero touch. We want file vault, because we're good citizens. But there be dragons. So we know that we could let JUMPCLOUD create those users, but the JUMPCLOUD account takeover process takes a couple of reboots to take over those users set up by Setup Assistant. So we've got to be aware of secure token. So now the keys are either generated during the first interactive login or during user creation. And Apple are quite vague in their developer article exactly how this happens. But we know that the first user created gets a secure token, and then they can give secure token to subsequent users. So our workflow has to do something similar. So Scott from JUMPCLOUD came up with a workflow. Use a temporary enrollment user and a user type password to get a secure token. That's user 501. You then configure a service account to do some clever stuff and interact with JUMPCLOUD. Scott uses some feedback with DP notified to create a new JUMPCLOUD user. And this ends up being your first effective user, 503. Then we remove that first user, and you can also, the thing that caught my eye about JUMPCLOUD was you can add an admin account, and you can centrally rotate that password very, very easily. So there are times where we have to give a customer, most of our clients run as standard users. Occasionally we will have to give them elevated privileges, but then they have the keys to the kingdom on all the computers in that environment. So it would be nice if we do have to give a password out that we can then rotate and change that to keep the systems fairly secure. So have a look at Scott's presentation from yesterday when it hits YouTube. He installs a signed package which executes a shell script, and that's built with MUNKI package. So here's his workflow. And again, it's slightly accelerated, so you don't have to sit through several minutes of progress bar. So you do all the normal stuff. Let you know you live in Glasgow. Wait a long time for something to happen. Some of that is about 2,000%. So the first user populates with a username, and the password is just welcome1 exclamation mark. It then runs through. And it's what it's doing here, it's curling down the software and then running JUMPCLOUD's silent installation. You create your user because you know your email address, and then you get to set your password. So in this particular workflow, the user doesn't have a password. They're provisioned in JUMPCLOUD, but there's no need for them to have a password. There's no temporary password. There's no post-its. So again, it gives you almost finished. And he has to switch between full screen and part screen to run the OSA scripts where you enter the password. Then you end up with a login window. You log in as Joe. Then what we can see is that we can see that we've got Joe Brown, user 503, and there's JUMPCLOUD servers account, user 502. Do you like that? So Scott installs it as a package, but we want extra flexibility. So we want to install it as part of install application. So in our workflow, we're going to test this and get this up and working. And in my excitement this morning, I managed to break our JSON file at the root of our web server. So there are a couple of demos missing from the next stage. So we are installing our package in the right order, but for some reason, the file is corrupt, and when I went to update it, I've got propagation delays on the CloudFront network at the moment. So once I've got that working, I will publish these for you to have a look at. So, my demo. Mosel is another product we need to look at. At the minute, it works with Azure AD and AD. Google is on their roadmap in terms of integration. Single sign-on is in beta. But if it's a fit for your organization, I think it's worth having a look at. So in terms of how theirs runs, try that again. There we go. Okay, so again, select your country. Wait for a lot of time in a VM. Tell it you're in Birmingham this time. Runs to the normal setup assistant, and then, oh, this is new. So, Office 365 login, put some credentials in. Fortunately, Emma knows her password, I think. Oh, maybe she's going to have to look it up. Oh, no, they're all right. Ah, but it's the first time she's logged in, so she's got to change her password. But Emma's lazy. And she can't type. There we go, they match now. Too simple. Give me something more complex, please. Stay signed in. Create your account with your Microsoft password. A little bit more acceleration. And then let's go and see what's actually happened. So we've got a little icon up at the top. So we can sync the local password with Microsoft. Go open a directory utility and see what it's created. So it's created an Emma user. That's user 502. And let's see if what else it's created as part of the process. Okay, so there's an IT admin user. And eventually, does anybody want some chocolate while we wait?
It's good chocolate.
Okay, so IT admin user was the first user created on the box because we decided we wanted an admin from within Mosel. So the next thing, Fleetsmith. When you sign up to Fleetsmith, you either use your Google G Suite identity or your Office 365 identity. They've built the whole product as a security-first product. It's got Google Santa included in it, so if you want to whitelist applications, you can stop users installing things on the device itself. I've not got a demo of this, but Fleetsmith are downstairs, so if you're quick, you can catch them and find out a little bit more. I will put a demo of the Fleetsmith enrollment process, but I'd clicked an incorrect box, so I ended up having to not have a zero-touch workflow. So the conclusion, JUMPCLOUD, SIMPLEMDM, and MUNKI. So JUMPCLOUD at list price is going to cost you $9 a month, SIMPLEMDM $250, MUNKI, depending on how you cost your time and expertise, you can then pick and choose. Gives us Apple Business Manager. We've shown it can give a zero-touch deployment. You've got this independent directory with the ability to rotate admin creds. You can use JUMPCLOUD to remove users from devices. You've got the standard MDM feature set from Simple, and then you've got MUNKI for desired state management and software updates. Mosel and MUNKI, if you want to. So $1 per user per month, 34 cents for the auth, gives you Business Manager, School Manager integration. Mosel have a separate product for education because their philosophy is we build a product that fits our market, not one size fits all. We can do zero touch, we've seen it. I'd be interested to see how the Google integration works with that particular set. MUNKI integration will give us our desired state software installation, and there's some more stuff from Alan, how he's deployed MUNKI using a script. And he's also investigated install applications from Eric. Fleetsmith, $8.25 per user per month. With Fleetsmith, if you're a micro organization, so 10 users and below, it's not going to cost you anything. But when you do get above that threshold, you pay for all of your users. It's a very slick product. It's a very modern product. It's something we like. And it will fit certain clients, but it won't fit all of our clients. So you can do zero-touch deployment on a budget. The costs do work for a lot of our clients who are small business. The first 10 users for JUMPCLOUD are free of charge. And then, as I said, for a sub-10 user organization, Fleetsmith is free. Okay, who's counting? Did anybody count? So I'll have to play the video back and count to give you a number.
I think it's a good solid dozen.
Easily.
I would say 2 dozen.
So I'll post some links later today. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you found it useful. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, too slow.
I've used Alan's script too, and we have Mosul, and it's been working well with MUNKI. You mentioned the race condition with Mosul, and after doing some testing up to 10.14.5 a couple weeks ago and updating my curl to the latest MUNKI, everything worked good for a week, and then all of a sudden we had machines and reboot loops all over our campus. I'm wondering if you would run into any situation like that in your testing.
No, because our proof of concept is tiny. It's a small number of machines, and we literally put one box that we bought in each MDM just to be able to understand the process and how the single sign-on workflow actually worked. So it's not something that I can shed a light on. I'd be interested to learn more to see why it's happening and what the change was between, was it an OS point upgrade that caused the problem, or was it an update of the MUNKI tools that caused the issue?
And we're still trying to figure that out, because I can use safe mode and get into all of them, and remove all of the MUNKI stuff. They keep rebooting startup after that, so it doesn't look like a MUNKI problem. Can't find a log file that says anything otherwise at this point.
And how have Mosul been in terms of their assistance?
We also apparently had some kind of communication issue going on where there was a lengthy wait between Mosul and our clients, which we're also trying to track down, which threw another loop in things for us. But once the MUNKI command runs on the thing, there shouldn't be anything else that it needs to do as part of its bootstrapping. Yeah. So we're still tracking it down.
Anyone else? Oh, I think then.
Oh, we got one in the back?
You got one in the back? Nope.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for putting all of this together. That this is a lot of work, I'm sure, and a very scientific and methodical approach that I find tremendously valuable.
Well, thank you very much. In one of the things that I found when I was starting to look at the whole picture was that nobody had kind of done start to finish of here are all the steps, here's the tutorial. And what I wanted to do was to make this be a kind of a document that anybody without any experience can pick up, that they can go, okay, what are the steps and how do they work? So I will populate my version of the slides with the two missing demos of the completed install applications. I've got some more work to do with JUMPCLOUD, because or JUMPCLOUD only released their product yesterday. I got an early view of it on Wednesday last week. So it's the very first iteration of what they're doing. And we've seen with what Mosel Auth does, that's a quite nice integrated product. And Scott's idea is that his tool is completely MDM agnostic. So it will work and it will tie in with all of those tools. And it might be that we change how it's delivered. So it's a bash script at the moment that's wrapped up in a package. And it might be that we have to make some changes to get that to work effectively in install applications workflow, or it may become a Swift app. And after Tuesday, I'm inspired to go and spend a bit of time learning Swift, so I might decide to have a go at rewriting it in Swift as a real project to get my teeth into. One down the front.
How large is your footprint for Macs?
We vary because we do a mix of project work where we do one-off work and then we kind of walk away. So our typical workflow is we go and we'll do company audit. We'll then produce a report. It's usually a chargeable report. That then leads into a series of projects to remediate some of the things that we found that we maybe find could be better. And then if the client wants to keep us on an ongoing basis, we'll offer them managed service. So we're only looking after sort of 250 seats there or thereabouts at any one time, because most of our clients are kind of 20, 30, 50 is a big client for us. The biggest client we've had in terms of number of seats is 700, but we weren't looking after all 700. We were looking after head office, plus all of the mail services and Google services for that client. Any more for any more? 12 minutes left. Thank you very much. I don't have any more.
Don't forget there's chocolate up here.